Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to the Vikings TV show review. No, it's not the Vikings TV show, it's Valhalla the game. I am about 50 hours deep, I'm level 130. I've completed about 6 or 7 regions including Asgard, what's the other one? The vineyards, North America basically, and all of Norway, like every single bit of gold, wealth and mystery in that godforsaken Skyrim rip-off country. And I'm here to tell you 5 good things, 5 bad things so far. It's not a proper full review, but I do want to talk about what I like and what I don't like. Agree me, disagree me, let me know. My focus throughout all this playtime has been more guides, tutorials, and obviously trying to break away from survival content a little bit into something a bit more variety based. So make sure you help me out by liking and subscribing if you want to see more, and let me take you through my opinion of Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now. One of the biggest discussion points I've seen a lot is whether or not the game is too long. For definite sure, there's a lot of content in this game, and there's a lot of content that sometimes feels a bit out of place, like the sections that you unlock in Vinland, North America and Asgard, and I guess that's going to be one of the first negatives. The game matches our time at the moment. More people are at home playing games at the moment, and maybe not everyone's got enough money to buy loads of different games, and so the idea is to get engagement, you want your games to last and people to be playing it more and more. Assassin's Creed Valhalla does this. There's lots of variety here. You will be doing lots of different mysterious quests, the raids, go and explore the main mission, exploring new areas. There is enough here for sure, and definitely it was just a little bit of a fraction too long for me, but I reckon loads of people enjoy it. The shift to more episodic content where you clear out a region is definitely beneficial. It makes it all a little bit more manageable. Doesn't feel like everything's dragging on and on and on and on. Although you do kind of get sick of the chessboard after a little while, thinking, oh, there's another region I've still got to do. As I mentioned earlier as well, you can unlock North America and Asgard, and these are distinct areas that will take you a good few hours to complete each section, each one, and there's lots of explorables as well. And it's kind of shoehorned in at a really odd place. Particularly North America feels unfinished, feels like it maybe should have been epilogue content, or maybe it was like a pre-order bonus for certain customers from certain stores. I just get that vibe from it, even though it does tie in a lot to the end of the story, but no spoilers. So the game is kind of what you might expect. It is about the same size as Odyssey, maybe a bit bigger, but if you sail through the story, you could probably do it in about 40 hours. No side quests, nothing extracting you, cutting out all the cutscenes. You would race through it in about 40 hours. Who wants to really do that? I'm not sure. But for sure, I don't like wasting my time. I don't like going to areas, going and scoping out new abilities, finding new weapons, and then realising I have to do that exact same monastery or go through that exact same area because the story is going to take me there now. So that's my big criticism first, is don't just waste my time. I don't want to be doing the same thing unless I'm going to get substantial reward out of it. Like, I don't want to be clearing out the same place. Now obviously you could say it's not their fault, but normally in these types of games you can do a lot of the side action, a lot of the side content, and particularly in gaining rewards and stuff, it will be a little bit separate from the main story. But in this instance you'll get all your abilities, or most of them anyway, weapons, armors, by following the story first. So top tip, in a region, do the story first, then focus on anything that may look a bit more interesting and is out of the way a little bit, and that's the time to go and explore some of the gold and the mysterious blue dots. And speaking of them little blue dots, good thing, the actual mysterious events, the world events, the blue dots, these are great. I love the way they've gone to this now. I mean, it still doesn't clear up completely your wall of text looking at your quests, but it does help a lot. Finding that exploration vibe where you don't know what you're going to see in a beautiful part of the country, or a misty dark piece that's suddenly got a little bit cloudy and a little bit rainy, and then you see a horrible little white or blue dot. It's going to be something pretty bad normally. Other times it could be just a nice little conversation with an NPC, or it might be you buying something from someone, finding a new dice player to play against, or perhaps it's going to be a puzzle. There's so many different options that you come across, and I really enjoyed them. I think it definitely a better way of doing it than picking up half a conversation you didn't even hear from some NPCs, and all of a sudden you've got a new quest in your bag. You have to go and investigate these places. It makes you want to explore more, and it makes you kind of also, weirdly, complete all of them just to see what they all have to offer. Whereas I think normally when you do obviously see that wall of text, you're already thinking, nah, I'm not going to touch that quest, that one looks boring. Whereas this, you've got no choice, and it's a bit of pot luck. Or realising that you're going to be facing a legendary creature. It's all really cool stuff, whether it's the white, the blue or the gold dots. There's something to go and get, and you can then start to realise what is maybe going to be worth your time a bit more. Smaller gold dots, no, they're going to be just general sort of loot. Bigger ones, they could be armour, they could be abilities. They're well written and I really liked them. In fact, so much that I really kind of wanted them to carry on a little bit. Like some of the characters you meet, I wanted them to reoccur. And I guess that leads on to the second thing I didn't like. Strenuously, very strenuously, and very minor really. But I felt like a lot of the missions, the side missions, the mystery events, they could have maybe had a little bit more of a better ending for some of them, or they could have gone on a little bit longer and you come across some of the NPCs that you've helped out later on in the game. I've yet to experience that 50 hours in. The Ubisoft devs made it short and impactful. They said they didn't want everyone feeling like the Vikings were beloved by everyone, but for sure it would have been nice to get some more resolution or just have some of these characters appear again later on. And that kind of goes in line with consequences. You are freeing up these regions, you're helping whoever's in charge of that region or take over that region, and then nothing really comes of it if you muck up. Like, you've got lots of choices between choosing one person or another person or a decision or this decision or where to raid first, and it doesn't matter. There's only maybe 5 decisions, and I won't spoil it, but it has something to do with your brother, and pretty much if you muck that up, then he may not be around as much. It all just depends on the choices you make. That's all I'll say. You can look it up if you want. But yeah, each faction you're going to meet ultimately has some choices, and I would have liked it if it's going to go somewhere. Like, I'm pretty sure I've scouted out some info for some other vids, I've come across a lot of spoilers, and as far as I'm aware, there isn't much consequence in terms of like a final battle. Like, you're not going to need 10 regions or you're going to get the really bad ending. They all pretty much come and help you. Even if you end up doing something they disagree with, they'll still support you and be in alliance with you after they give you some sort of lecture. Maybe I'm not looking for full Mass Effect, 20 different endings or whatever, but certainly I think it could have paid off that if most of the board was blue, you could have maybe got a bit of extra help in the final battles, or along them lines, something like that, something a bit more interesting and to consequence. When it comes to weapons and upgrades, I was really happy with the gear. I know it changed from Odyssey where you got loads of gear and it was all random, but I much prefer finding specific weapons that you can upgrade and take with you. I hate leaving behind stuff that I really enjoy but I can't use because it's not at the right power level. So I really preferred this way of doing it. Is there enough weapons? Well, 50 hours in, I've got everything that I could ever want and I'm still nowhere near the middle of the game. So I still think there's plenty of weapons and armour. You just have to look for them a little bit more. If you happen to somehow not come across them during your missions, you just got to be clicking in that right stick at all times to show up what is nearby, if it's gold bars or armour. When you take your weapons to a blacksmith, you'll get it upgraded and it will increase the little boxes that you can upgrade yourself with just basic materials like iron and leather, and these will increase your overall stats. And of course, when you do take it to a blacksmith, it'll upgrade your runes. Now, the runes were a bit underwhelming. Most of them I barely ever used. It was only really like 3 or 4, like the life-giving ones in armour, and particularly backstab, and I managed to find a 4.9 critical hit damage multiplier or something like that. They're my favourite, they're my go-to ones. I rarely ever used any of the others, but I appreciate they may complement your style a little bit. I just felt like they could have been a little bit more OP and a little bit more drastic in certain cases, or just had various different results rather than just adding a few little points onto your stats. That sounds like a negative, but overall I'm happy with the upgrades, like I said, and the weapon system. You will eventually find lots of materials to upgrade. If you're upgrading everything, it can be a bit of a chore, I think, to go and look for this stuff, but as soon as you start getting your settlement up and running, and as soon as you get some levels into it, you can unlock the ability to buy a lot of the carbon and then the nickel ingots that you need. The weapons feel good. I had a good time mixing it up. At first I was using the flail because it was OP, then I switched to a spear, then I switched to double axes when I realised I could take out zealots by holding L1 on them and then doing my specials on them, and now I'm mixing it up a little bit with swords and shields and doing a little bit more variety with my bows. I've stuck with the hunter bow for pretty much all that time, but I've just recently switched to the light bow and it's fun. The various different ones you've got are good. I hate the Predator bow. It's just not the one for me. Not a big fan of first person aiming and shooting, but I appreciate some of you guys will really like it. There's been some blowback about combat and being a bit janky and stuff. I mean, I don't know what people are expecting. I thought the combat was fine. Yeah, there are some moments where there's some glitches or funny moments where your characters were being chucked about a bit awkwardly. And for sure, there's a few moments where I definitely got punched in the head or stabbed by someone, even though I was definitely dodging at the right moment. But overall, I think the combat's pretty varied. Maybe over 100 hours, I'll get sick of them finishing animations. But as long as you're switching up a lot of the weapons, it's fine. Like, it's definitely passable and it's pretty decent when you go wading in with your dual-wielding axes once you unlock that ability. In terms of, like, the styles, yeah, you can mix it up. You can go head-on, and that ended up being what I was doing because I was so OP, I didn't really have to go stealth anymore. I could just just go in and kill a lot of people in the early stages, but you can treat it a bit more like an Assassin's Creed game. It's not completely like the old school games, but they have done a lot to make it that way. You can change the settings so you can do instant assassinations. You can have quick time events that will actually reduce the damage of enemies, and that helps a lot as well. And I think there's definitely a bit of a nod back to previous games in how combat is evolving, and maybe it went a bit too far in Odyssey in having sponge bosses or enemies. I've kind of snuck in 3 good things in one here, but I guess they're all tied together. The skills also I think is great. Like, it's nice going into a big skill tree. At first a bit overwhelming, there's way too many points and you feel like you're not really doing much by increasing just your assassination damage by 2 or your light melee attacks by 2 points. It's not like that big a deal, but over time you start to realise that you can game it a little bit, and you can find certain nodes that if you activate them, it's going to make you a massively OP melee character eventually. Matching your weapons and your armors to your playstyle as well does have beneficial uses, again, if you're paying attention to them skill points, and they just give you a ton of abilities, as well as obviously the abilities you find, and they're all pretty decent and fine. Well, I say that, some abilities I really didn't like and I just didn't find much of a use for, but I like the idea that maybe if I go and get the second upgrade, they become something I'll use a lot more. I definitely think the reliance on your adrenaline is really important. Getting all the adrenaline skills that you can in the skill tree unlocked, that's a game changer. Having the ability to use your special 3 or 4 times, it will get you out of so many situations. Equally, slowing down time when you dodge just at the last minute, that is a game changer. It's helped me so much deal with the zealots and stuff. It's a nitpick, I'm not going to include it as a negative, but maybe a little bit more work in terms of having to respec. It's nice respecing and choosing what you need for the moment, but I still think there could have been maybe a little bit of gating with some of these, as they do feel a bit too OP, or just some sort of, again, consequence, and I've used that quite a lot in this review I think, but something to balance out the fact that you're changing it up and mixing stuff up a little bit. One thing is definitely a negative, I guess, is that you can't really customize the weapons and more. Like, I'd like to be able to put some color onto them how I want, or keep them at a certain look. When you upgrade them through the blacksmith, they go to their next ultimate look ability, and sometimes I prefer the older version. I don't want it necessarily transmogrification like Odyssey brought in. I think they ended up doing that because people were complaining they just had way too many weapons that they weren't doing anything with, and so you can make weapons look a certain way but I still have the retaining benefits. I think that's maybe a bit OP for this system, but definitely it would be nice if we can maybe just choose a few different skins for it at least. And I guess that's part of the customization options are just poor overall. Yes, you can put as many tattoos as you want. Yes, you can dress up your braids, you can decorate your longship, and you can get raven mounts. Mounts for your horse and changes a skin for your raven. But a lot of that stuff you won't actually be able to access until you upgrade your settlement. And so you could be maybe 15, 20 hours in before you can even mess around and change your raven. That is if you only believe in upgrading your settlement. If you actually go around to a horse stables, you can upgrade and change your skins there. But some of the other stuff like the tattooist, I've never found another tattooist, I've never found another ship merchant. So that means you have to upgrade both of them before you can even think about customizing yourself. So that means you're stuck with your base character for a long ass time. In a game that offers so much choice around your skills and some of the abilities and the way that you can adjust stuff, it's just a bit strange that so much of this content is kind of locked off. It's kind of making you go out there and do lots of raids and stuff to really unlock what is mostly, I would say, a basic. Obviously you can choose what upgrades you go for first, so you may prioritize maybe customizing that, but then you'll miss out maybe on the hidden bureaus, or maybe you'll miss out on exploring the Vinlands, or maybe you'll miss out on getting your Jomsviking. They're the kind of things that I went for. I focused on content that was going to help me through the story in the game to obviously unlock more areas rather than necessarily just skins, and I just feel like that should be part and parcel of the base game. Now I've kept this separate from just normal combat, but fighting the zealots and hunting them down, it's part of the Hidden Ones basic quest line, and it runs in parallel with the main story beats, where you are pretty much resurrecting and helping found the Assassin's Bureau in Britain, and it's a nice little touch to some of the older games, and it's definitely got a bit more classic feel. You talk to one character once you've upgraded the hut into a proper bureau, and then you go and explore all these places, collect codex notes, find clues about where some of these zealots are, as well as some of the actual marks, and if you kill enough of these proper marks, you'll get medallions and rewards from Haytham, and obviously you'll be well on your way to completing about a third of the story. It kind of is a little bit optional. It does apparently converge in the middle a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, it's definitely fun finding these zealots, particularly the way I did it, where I was underpowered, even if I was using a bit of a cheesy method, holding that L1 button and spamming my special abilities on him afterwards. I just really enjoyed it. It's nice coming up against a Dark Souls challenge enemy, and I felt that was just perfect for this game. And I do like, now I'm getting into it a bit more elites are starting to show up. Previously, like, I've barely come across a few, obviously because I was massively underpowered in the early stages, but once I left Norway I was OP, and so I was just obliterating everyone. But now there's more and more elites appearing, more different types as well, and that's been enjoyable facing off against them, seeing what challenge they've got. I hate the ones with wolves, they're pretty deadly. Some of the boss fights are okay as well, like, again, they're still part and parcel of the Hidden Ones Bureau, even though some of them are tied to the missions. So yeah, I like this aspect as well. It's really good just coming across a zealot and trying to work out what it was, spending an hour fighting one boss, or legendary creature. They've been challenging as well. I really enjoyed doing underpowered content with them. So that's my advice. If you go against some of these things, make sure you're a little bit underpowered so that you can have a little bit of a challenge. Otherwise, you still may find a lot of these too easy. So I guess it's time to talk about the settlement system, which unfortunately I felt kind of failed a little bit. It was just a bit weak sauce. It's good in its way, like running around your little settlement, seeing the people bustling and putting your totems here and your cosmetics. That was cool, and being able to choose and upgrade certain things was good, but I felt like it was just a bit underwhelming. Like, so many of the things that you go and upgrade, it gives you a little stat boost, so you'll end up getting 25% extra health for upgrading some of your honey making places, or some. This could have led to maybe building up some forts, some walls, and it's a pretty open settlement. Like, literally, I guess they're here to show they're not for war, but you know, they're pretty bloodthirsty as it goes, is the old Raven clan. And yeah, it just felt like it was just a little bit underplayed. Give me some more quests or missions to do with everyone in my village and settlement, rather than just maybe one or two. Give me some other extra reasons that I want to invest in these. Eventually, when you start upgrading your settlement, it makes life easier, so you don't have to go and find some of them resources. You can go ahead and buy them from traders and stuff. But some of the rewards that you get from the fishing hut and the hunter's hut are just really bad. Like, you've got to collect 5 horns of something, 10 hooves of this, or 20 wolf claws, and eventually you might get a rune out of it, or maybe a carbon ingot or nickel ingot. A little spoiler for anyone that wants to know as well, apparently to get your settlement all the way to level 6, you also have to do every single raid in the game. Now, I haven't got that confirmed myself, but that's what I've been seeing floating around, and so yeah, that's also a huge amount of work just to get your settlement up and running completely. The trading store is the best one to get, as well as the blacksmiths, as they'll offer better upgrades and better chances to get more items, particularly from the trading store. Every time you level up, it replenishes its iron and leather and stuff, so you can go and buy more resources. And yeah, it does make life easier if it's going to do one thing, but it just never felt as much of a hub as I wanted it to be. Also, don't like the idea that apart from maybe once in that 50 hours, I've had to defend my settlement. Like, if you're going to have something like a settlement system, I feel it would have been good to have to fight off raids occasionally a bit more. Maybe that would be annoying for certain people, but definitely maybe if you want to go to the next upgrade path, you have to face off, and it's something you can plan for, against an incoming attack from some rogue band of Vikings, or maybe the Brits want to claim that bit of land back. Britain, UK, whatever you want to call it, England is fantastic so far. I'm really enjoying exploring the region and the realms. Like I said, I have been using fast travel a bit more now. I've unlocked certain points, but I'm still just really enjoying my time when I have been on horseback, going through different various sort of countryside roads and all sorts of ruins. They're just everywhere, and it looks good. Not really feeling repetition set in. I know that the further north I'm going to go, it's going to start getting a bit more snowy, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And when I went a bit more south, it was a bit more sunny. Obviously, the mixing up when you go to North America and then Asgard, that changes things, and you can always go back to Norway for more snow. Love Norway. I think it's no accident they've really tapped into that Viking sound, which almost sounds exactly like Skyrim. I'm pretty sure Ubisoft will get a DMC request coming very soon from Mr. Todd Howard. But yeah, every ruin I come across, I wanted to go and see what was there and see if it was something I might recognise. Obviously, clearly, it's been a long time since then. And London was pretty cool. If you like the old school Assassin's vibe, head to one of the big cities like London and maybe Jorvik or York, and you'll get that kind of vibe. You've even got some of the missions that are a bit old school. You can obviously blend into the crowds and kind of find your mark. And it's a good experience. It reminded me of the old classic Assassin's Creed games. Definitely feels like they've removed waypoints as well, or you know, you have to go on your horse to certain places, even with the fast travel points like the boat. And I guess you really should be using the longship to get around, but I ain't gonna lie, like apart from doing it for raids and because I had to do it for a story mission, I pretty much fast travelled or just used my horse, as it ended up just feeling a little bit quicker going over land. Really nice touches going over the map and finding different sounds. Like if you put your cursor on a river, you'll hear river sounds. If you put it over a monastery, you hear the monks singing. So all in all, really love the world. It really feels like I am just going out on my way to go and explore these places because it's fun. With the mysterious events, it makes it more enjoyable. Now, if they could only fix the damn bug where it keeps saying I'm not connected on the Ubi Connect thing on the map square, I'd be a lot of a happier bunny. And I guess this is going to be personal and probably really contentious, is I'm not a big fan of the raids. Like, I find the raids pretty, I guess I could have lapped this in with the settlement system, but the raids are just a bit long. Like, I just don't want to be doing them once I've done a few. Like, give me enough to get my stuff up and running, but no way am I going to be grinding out just to get level 6. Well, I say this and you see a guide pop up for me. But yeah, I just felt like the raids were not challenging enough in certain instances. Again, if you're kind of overpowered for that region, at least anyway. It never feels like my Joms Vikings, which you have to upgrade if you want to change who goes on raids with you. It never felt like they were making that much of a difference. Like, I had the bare basic ones for ages. They were doing the job, but they're mostly distraction tools, so you can pretty much come up and stab one of the enemies in the back. Never really felt like a tug of war or anything. Like, you know, we've got our forces, we're going to invade, we're going to take a long time to get through it. And I think that shows in that Ubisoft have said they're going to be adding a new type of raid. I can't remember if it's season pass or whether it's going to be free content, but they've said they're adding something where it's going to be more replayability there. So obviously I think there's problems. It could have definitely done with more defences. Like in the initial stages in Norway, you think this is it. There's going to be everyone chucking oil at you all the time, but that only happens at very big faults, very big set pieces. And I could just plough through it. Like, I cheesed it the whole way through. I don't think I came off my battering ram once in the last time I did it. I just kept on doing it when it was just me firing that battering ram through the doors. And then some of the smaller raids and stuff, as I said, you just don't need your dudes. They're just distraction tools, and that is about it. If they go down on one knee, you can go and help them maybe because you can't get a door open because you need 2 people to do it. But otherwise, they're fine. Like, they're not going to die. There's no consequence either from them. Like, you don't lose anyone as far as I know so far. It hasn't come up with any reason that one of your Joms Vikings has actually been properly killed. It would be better if all of your party had consequences and they did have life bars and you really had to think about how you could do it, or if you could give some sort of very basic directional controls, like, you know, pressing up on the D-pad in raid mode would mean that they would advance, pressing down would mean they would back off a little bit and group together a little bit more, you know, that kind of thing. That's what I would like to see in the raid mechanics. Make it a little bit more than just them being pretty much cannon fodder. And number 5, I guess, is overall my love again for an Assassin's Creed game. I love the first one. It was like my favourite game back on the day in the Xbox 360. Number 2 was good. I got into that well. I completed it all. I did get a bit sick of Ezio by the end of that one though. And by the time the other next ones come out, like was it Brotherhood? I can't even remember. There's been so many. It's been a long time. Yeah, I was starting to wean off them. As I said, maybe if I've come back to this because I've got sick of survival games, I'm starting to enjoy these types of games that have got a bit more structure. And there is some good story. There are some good beats to it. It's still a little bit, so far I'm not feeling any real danger or any real excitement about going forward with the story. I don't know what's going on with my brother, but I can sense the way that I'm flirting with these misses that there might be some sort of contentious issue between us in the future. You'll meet some mad Vikings, you'll also meet some really mad Brits as well, and some of the characters do stand out, but they do feel a bit carbon copy, and just like, yep, we need a zany Viking, let's go. Yep, he's going to be absolutely maniacal and pretty much just a bit of a shithead. So yeah, I'm not as invested in the story, and it feels like a lot of the voice work is kind of repetitive. But I don't want to finish this on a bad note. Overall, I think it's well put together just about. if they could have just fitted in some of these side areas like Asgard and Vineyard a bit better, and they could have made the raids and the sort of settlement system a little bit more polished, I think this would be my game of the year. But it's definitely restored my faith in these games, and I'll definitely eagerly be looking forward to whatever comes next in terms of either the DLC, where we're going to be exploring Ireland, as well as maybe Paris in the future too, and whatever kind of free content they're going to be coming up with the seasons or seasonal stuff as well. So yeah, definitely made me a AC convert once more, and I guess that's the main thing. It's made me want to play it more, it's made me want to just chill and hang out and do lots of side quests, and that's something a game hasn't made me want to do for a long time, because I'm always so focused on getting work done and making guides, tutorials as quick as I can. I've actually started to chill out a little bit with this game. So I hope you enjoy it. Hope you found this video useful. Agree, disagree, whatever. Your opinion, you do you. This was my opinion and I'll do me. Until next time, rat bags, I'll see you lot later.